we're really excited to talk about Kobe Bufkin. He's a really exciting prospect, 19.75 years old on draft night, and he's only a sophomore. So he is a young sophomore. He's listed at 6'4", 175. I don't know what his wingspan is, but it does look pretty long.
Yeah.
Like it looks very plus, which is a good thing considering, where he is at with his weight. He played 34 minutes per game, averaged 14 points, 4.5 rebounds, 2.9 assists to 1.9 turnovers with 1.3 steals and 0.7 blocks. Field goal percentage of 48% on the dot, shot 35.5% from three, 84.9% from the line, which I love. That's a very good number. On 2.6 free throw attempts per game, an efficient 57.8% true shooting percentage, PER of 19.2, BPM of 6.7. It took him a while to heat up, but he has started to pop up on boards. It's a little bit reminiscent of the time frame of Jalen Williams last year, who was a slow cook, kind of slow burn guy who ultimately ended up as a lottery pick, but really didn't show up on boards until, around now. We were on him before this, but, in the mainstream, Jalen didn't show up until around January, February. And Kobe kind of feels the same way. Currently, ESPN has him at 23. The Athletic has him at 24. Tankathon has him at 21. Bleacher Report has him at 14. No Ceilings has him at 18. The Ringer did not have him ranked in their top 40. And Swish Theory has him at 31 for an average price of 25.9. And as I said, he was unranked on the February Draft Act update. So what did you think about Bufkin as a shooter?
I like how it looks is where I'll start. I do like how it looks. I think it's compact. I like how it looks. There's a shot right there, pulling up right from deep. Looks good, looks smooth. The numbers, I think, are very good for me personally. And Corey, you and I, we say this almost every damn pod. We believe in guys who hit free throws, and he shot 85% from the free throw line. Of course, only on 2.6 attempts per game. I know that's not great, but context, who did he play with, right? He played with Hunter Dickinson, who touched the ball all the time. And that's something I've been thinking about a lot today in the last couple of days, thinking about Bufkin, thinking about Jett Howard. I feel like if these guys had played on different teams, what would their numbers look like? Because Hunter Dickinson was a frustrating player to watch this season. Michigan was so set on getting him these post touches that a lot of times ended up in bricks. And Bufkin and Jett Howard had to survive and live within that ecosystem and make something of themselves. And Bufkin had a pretty good season. And so considering the shooting from what you guys are seeing on the screen right now and from what I watched on tape, I really, really thought that now, of course, I think for right now where he's at, he's more effective in the mid-range than he is from outside. But that outside shooting number is not bad either. 35.5% from three. As I mentioned, 85% from the free throw line. The biggest thing that I enjoyed, Corey, was obviously he saw a huge uptick in minutes from his freshman season to his sophomore season. But just, looking at the raw numbers, he doubled his attempts per three per game, and he went up 13% for 3-point percentage, free throw percentage all went up. So I think those are really positive signs, and I really enjoyed what I saw from him as a shooter.
This is probably my favorite possession of his entire film dive that I had, and it is a mid-range shot because it shows the kind of craftiness and how comfortable he is operating at a pick and roll with the ball in his hands. So he's going to come off the screen with Dickinson. He's going to snake the ball screen and just sidestep to the elbow, really creating enough space that it makes it hard for the guard to get back into play off the screen, and then the big to be able to contest because he's creating so much space hopping to his left. It's really, really smooth. And the other thing about him as a shooter, right, is that he doesn't need the ball in his hands to thrive. And that's what makes him, a really high level prospect. It's not that he can create off the bounce so much. I wish that he did it more, but look at this. This is really heady. Off the little hammer action. He smartly flattens out to the corner against North Carolina here and knocks down the catch and shoot three. And then here against Maryland, I love the shot that we're going to see here, which is him coming off a DHO, quickly letting it fly. I mean, one of the things that I did like that Michigan did, which I don't know if it was completely conducive to winning for them, because I think they would have been better served to put him on the ball more. but they would put him in one of the corners and run him off movement and different actions to get him going downhill, which we'll see when the finishing, because he's not like the burstiest guy.
Yeah.
So they created advantages for him by giving him opportunities to shoot off movement, and it's really pretty. And things get really scary, I think, when we realize that he's got real 3-level scoring potential. So I'm gonna read you some synergy numbers
at this too.
Okay. Finishing at the rim, 71.1% overall, which is for a 6'4", 175-pound guard, pretty fantastic.
It's Mitchell Robinson territory.
68.5% on layups. So for a guy who sneaky athletic, I think, has some, he a decent amount of dunks this year, good adequate amount. Kobe Bufkin was 67.5% at the rim in the half court. Here against Indiana, he's going to operate. He's going to come get the ball at the top of the key. We're going to have Hunter Dickinson again pop up on our screen, throw a little screen, and he's able to get all the way downhill. Now, he's not the burstiest guy in the world. So giving him this much room, and I think this is a good way to illustrate kind of the NBA context, whereas this kind of 4 out, I mean, there's a guy kind of sneaking in the dunker spot, but bringing, the big up, to the level, right? Trace Jackson Davis is guarding out at the 3-point line, and Jet Howard now is spaced out in the strong corner. As we pause it here, you can't help off Jet Howard in the strong corner, and you definitely can't help off the strong corner in the NBA. So it allows him to just get all the way to the rim. He's really got some stuff. Here's another action coming off that movement from the corner, and he attacks Zach Edey with a little bit of momentum.
And that's the type of cerebral, really smart, savvy type of play that we're talking about that makes him such an interesting finisher. Now, of course, like when we talk about him in the NBA in year 1, right? He's probably not going to be at this level of finisher, but the fact that he finished at the level that he did in college is a really intriguing one, because we've also had guys who had similar volume, if not more, that, really struggled at finishing at the rim, like a name that I bring up that we mentioned before, like a Zaire Williams, who, and in that season for Stanford, really struggled at the rim. So this is a really good thing. And Corey, I do want to mention, as you brought up, he's not the quickest player. Now I know that, looking at certain things, he may remind you of certain lefties that are really explosive, but his first step is not the fastest. His overall speed, I don't think, is the fastest. He does have really long arms that enable him to take long strides, but speed is not necessarily, the marquee skill that he has, but he does have savvy. He does have hesitations, as you mentioned. I think he can, manipulate things with his eyes. And obviously with the threat of the outside jumper and the mid-range jumper, all of those things factor into his finishing at the rim as well.
Let's look at this possession. We're in kind of semi-transition. Dickinson sets a little drag screen type action here. We got Zeddy at the level, Zach Edey at the level up top. So he's going to come off this screen. Now he's got Edey in drop at the free throw line, and he's going to throw a slight little hesitation right there to kind of freeze him, because you have to guard that pick and roll. And I think, or the mid-range, sorry.
Yeah, right.
And when you hit that mid-range at that clip, it gives him just enough time to be able to finish around and over, a 7'4" behemoth in the paint. So that's what's really, really impressive about his craft, is that he has these little veteran techniques already to kind of help himself deal with the fact that he isn't a super athlete. He's not going to just absolutely burst down you, blow by you with his burst, but he does have enough craft, dive into a little bit of his playmaking, because he's a guy that doesn't have a crazy high assist total, but again, he wasn't really playing point guard. And I think he might be a point guard at the next level.
I'm laughing, Corey, because look, it's once again role context, setting, all of these things are really, really important, right? And I think with where he was for Michigan and what, Coach Howard was asking him to do, I thought he did exactly what he was asked to do, right? But on the NBA level, him being 6'4", who knows? He may even be 6'5". I don't know. He looks taller than me. I don't know what it is. But him being at 6'4" with his handle, his 3-level scoring, and the passing, once again, Corey, as you mentioned, the assist numbers are not high, but watch the tape. When he's running pick and roll, this guy is a really high level decision maker. And I really enjoyed watching him run the pick and roll. So I'm with you, Corey. I didn't go as far. I guess I lack the courage that you have to be able to say like, oh, I think he's going to be a point guard. But in my mind, I was like, he is going to be a guard. He's going to be a combo. He's going to be a guy that can very easily run sets for you, can run pick and roll, can be a decision maker for you on the offensive side of the court. So I just love that you went there.
He's confident and patient when he's running ball screens. So, right there, Cliff Amore from Rutgers, absolute freak athlete, sends a little hedge at him and he just retreats and makes a simple play. Here, we get a hard hedge and he shows his how he can his ambidexterity by making a live dribble right hand hit, which we're going to see a few more clips of. But takes a retreat dribble through the leg, right hand hit to his shooter. It doesn't seem super complicated, but when you get a hard hedge coming at you like that, it's an impressive play, even though it's simple. And we're going to see another, I believe, right hand live dribble hit here, coming off, getting downhill, a little wraparound live dribble back to kind of the strong corner. He goes middle on the ball screen there, and he. He didn't make a ton, and again, it goes back to him not being the full-time primary initiator, so he didn't make a ton of like these weak side hits throughout the season. A lot of it was like pick and roll, Hunter Dickinson, draw a switch, and then get the ball inside, and that's his job. And who knows, maybe he he plays with Joel Embiid or something at the next level, and he does a similar thing. But I do think he does have it in his bag. You saw a nice pass there. And then, here we're going to see a nice little weak side hit, side ball screen, gets downhill, live dribble with his left hand. Jet Howard's in the corner. That's going to be money, a lot of the time. A lot of the time. It's time for you to sell me this pen on Michigan's Kobe Bufkin.
So Kobe Bufkin is a guy who, depending on what team you're a front office guy for, but actually regardless of what team you're on, he's a guy that you're going to want to grab in the first round. And the reason why is, other than the million things we've said about him today and all the praise we've given him, but he's a guy on the base level, is a guy who's going to be able to play on the ball, play off the ball. He's a guy who's going to be able to he's going to be a versatile defender one day with more mass and strength and all that stuff. So overall, and especially on offense, a guy who's going to be a 3-level scorer, a guy who has real passing chops to him, a guy that plays really smart within himself, is a team player, knows how to play a role, but also down the line, we think is going to be able to take on more responsibility and more playmaking stuff. So he's a guy that from year one, from his rookie season, is going to be a smart, heady player that can play a role, but is a guy that you're going to want to invest in and eventually kind of cultivate the rest of his game into maybe becoming a number 1, number 2 option type of guy one day. He really has that type of potential in him. And so if you're into all that, and who has a beautiful left-handed stroke, can also score a high efficient scorer from the inside, even with his offhand. If you're interested in those types of things, you should probably grab Kobe Bufkin. And I imagine most NBA teams are into that type of player.